NBC2 investigator Rachel Polansky was the only reporter there.
What organization are you guys with?
New Life.
Where does the money go?
We feed clothing and help needy families, ma'am.
It's a story that sounded all too familiar, probably because we already heard it last year.
It's the New Life Christian Ministries, ma'am.
These groups of solicitors claim to be members of New Life Christian Ministries.
Where's New Life based out of?
Why?
Because I'd like to know if it's a real organization or if you're taking these people's money.
Go online. You'll see newlife.org.
So we did. newlife.org. That's a church in Massachusetts.
I'm just trying to find out if you're in any way affiliated with solicitors who would be collecting money down here in Fort Myers, Florida.
Nope. We also check newlifechristianchurch.org, and that's a church in New Hampshire.
And you do not have anyone from your church who would be collecting money here in Florida?
Neither church knew a thing about these Fort Myers solicitors who were supposedly collecting money on their behalf.
Even after the 5% increase, Florida state troopers are still among some of the lowest paid in the country. Doesn't that seem more like a cause for concern than celebration?
I think you have to work every year. I have another year, hopefully another good budget.
The NBC2 investigators had trouble getting information from FEMA too, but after some persistence, a spokesperson agreed to talk with us about these issues.
In the early days of the investigation, there wasn't a public announcement, in part to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Is FEMA making it public because of our reporting?
NBC2 was the first in this area to make that connection.
The state has not received any paperwork from Avalon Manor about its emergency power plan.
This is what the state has told you?
Yes.
Okay. That's not what the state has told me.
Avalon Manor has not provided any documentation regarding...
Yeah,
yes.
He's filming. Yeah.
I need him to stop.
A few days after my visit, the state did receive and approve a power plan from Avalon Manor.
Only on NBC2 tonight, these customers took their concerns to our investigator, Rachel Polansky.
Yeah, Kelly, Peter, I cover a lot of these types of stories, and I have never seen anything like this. This group of more than 50 people is organized. They're mad, and they want justice.
When you're building a custom home, you might expect some hiccups along the way. But none of these customers expected this.
It's pretty emotional for me.
Broken promises.
Because it's all the money we had, you know.
And half-built houses. But that's exactly what happened to Greg and Mary Higgins when they signed on with HD Custom Homes.
What I've paid them is $343,000. But when they gave it to me, it was roughly 50% completed.
And they're not alone.
And how much money are you at a loss?
$220,000.
Ann and Tom Hill say they're going through the same thing.
Because our house is only 45% complete, even though we paid 90% of it.
In fact, every person in this room tells the NBC2 investigators that they were ripped off in some way by HD Custom Homes. The company is owned by Stephen Dukes and Matthew Harden, so the NBC2 investigators went to their homes for answers.
No one answered the door at Stephen Duke's house, and now we are at co-owner Matthew Harden's house. But as you can see right here, there is a for sale sign in the front yard and a lockbox on the door. Clearly, nobody's home here either.
But a check on their records revealed that both men still have active construction licenses in our state, something that these customers are trying to change.
They need to be charged with embezzlement and fraud.
The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office tells me that it's currently investigating HD Custom Homes, and it has already received 15 complaints.
We need our retirement money back.
In the meantime, customers who say these builders left them high and dry have come together to submit complaints and letters to the county and to the state.
The numbers have to come in for them to wake up and say, hey, this is a big amount of money that these people are stealing from all the folks down in southern Florida.
And most of these folks tell me it's not about the money anymore. It's a matter of principle.
I mean, I certainly would love to be made whole, but I don't see that happening. So I would just like them to go to jail.
This group is not going to give up. We're not going to let it go away.
Now, something I thought was really interesting here, this group of people actually found each other on Facebook. They started their own Facebook group called HD Owners Unite, and that's how they've been kind of getting to know each other, collaborating, and trying to take these contractors on.
When this North Fort Myers dad drops his daughter off at school...
My daughter's name is Jada.
He worries about how she'll do in class.
She likes reading.
He's never worried about her health, until today.
And if there's something that could be seeping through the floor or something somewhere, they should at least check for it once a year.
We told Lee Grooms about radon, the radioactive gas that can enter homes or schools from soil or building materials and seep through cracks and openings in the foundation. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless, and the CDC says it's the #1 cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. Jada Grooms' school, Bayshore Elementary, hasn't tested for radon since 1997.
It's kind of scary to think she's here all day while I'm working and she could be breathing something in, you know.
The NBC2 investigators pulled records from the Florida Department of Health dating back to 1994. And out of the 83 public and private schools that have been tested for radon in Lee County, 64 of them, or 77%, have not been tested since 1996. Out of the 42 that have been tested in Collier County, 37 or 88% of them have not been tested since 1996. And the schools are not doing anything wrong because mandatory radon testing is not required in either county.
To me, as a public health expert, that's frightening.
Dr. Matthew Shabath, an epidemiologist at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, was shocked when we told him about the lack of radon testing taking place in Southwest Florida schools.
The data shows unequivocally there are pockets throughout the state of Florida in any given county, even those low-risk counties, where you can find a given building or a given room within a building where you have very high levels of radon.
And he says this is not a one-time measurement. Just because a classroom tested low for radon 20 years ago does not mean that it will test low today. And that goes both ways. A classroom that once tested high for radon could show low levels today.
It's like a flowing river where it can ebb and flow, and it's something that requires constant measurements over time.
Now, Charlotte County does have to test its schools for radon because of where it's located on this Florida radon protection map, but it's only required in brand new schools. I asked Charlotte County Public School spokesperson Mike Riley if he thinks that all schools should be tested.
We rely upon the experts at the State Department of Education and the state of Florida. If they feel that that's the correct amount of time for us, that's what we're doing.
So what happens if schools do find elevated levels of radon? According to the Florida statute, mitigation is recommended, but the state does not require any action.
The last testing we've done are the 2 newest schools that we've built.
Public records confirm that radon tests were performed at Lemon Bay High School in 2016 and Meadow Park Elementary in 2018. Both schools had low levels of radon.
So what determines a low or high level of radon? The gas is measured in picocuries per liter, and levels of 4 or more is considered hazardous. Since 1994, the NBC2 investigators found 23 schools in Southwest Florida that had classrooms with radon levels over 4 picocuries. In Charlotte County, we found one classroom that hit 38 and another that hit 48.
Is this a legitimate concern?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to the analogy. Would you fill a room with cigarette smoke and let your kids sit in there?
Lee Groom says he wouldn't.
I don't let my kid ride in the car with someone who smokes.
And now he wants some answers from his school district and his state lawmakers.
I would definitely like to know that somebody's checking into it.
Neither the Lee nor Collier County School District agreed to participate in our story.
3.5 million vehicles on Florida roads have unfixed safety recalls. That's about 1 out of every 5 cars in the state. The NBC2 investigators teamed up with Carfax in Lee County, and it didn't take us long to find driver.
You do have an open recall on this.
Okay, now I know. After driver.
You do have an open recall.
On the road with open recalls.
There's a bearing in here that could fail, and the vehicle could stall while in motion. So basically, this car could lose power while you're driving.
And it got us thinking, what about the vehicles being driven to emergencies by our first responders? We pulled the records, ran the VIN numbers, and found 99 open recalls for the Lee County Sheriff's Office, 49 open recalls for Cape Coral Police, and 15 open recalls for Fort Myers PD. So just what kind of recalls are we talking here? Chrysler recalled Dodge Chargers that had an alternator that could fail. According to my list, CCPD had 10 of these recalls and FMPD had 2. So I asked the general manager of Terry Winter Auto Service Center if that's a dangerous issue.
That actually can overheat and catch on fire, so that needs to be done. You'll probably experience a little burning smell. That, you just need to check with your dealer and have that one done definitely.
General Motors recalled Tahoes that could experience corrosion of the underhood cooling fan, which could result in an electrical short circuit.
That is also one the same as that can catch on fire and overheat, can cause your car to overheat. And you don't want that because then it can blow an engine or blow a head gasket.
LCSO had 4 of those recalls, CCPD had 3, and FMPD had 1.
So is that a pretty dangerous recall then?
It is, yes. And I mean, it can do damage to the car.
I also found recalls for passenger airbag inflators. CCPD had 21, LCSO had 13, and FMPD had 1.
If the vehicle's in an accident, the airbag could explode sending shrapnel throughout the car, not just in a straight line, but throughout the car.
Carfax's Chris Basso believes that every recall needs to be taken seriously.
The longer a recalled car goes unfixed, the more chance it has for that recalled part to fail, putting your life at risk.
Fort Myers Councilman Johnny Streets echoes his thoughts.
I'm grateful that, you all did the research and hopefully that the people that are responsible for getting our vehicles maintained or so forth will act immediately on that.
Through email, Fort Myers Police Chief Derek Diggs told me that the vehicles we identified had either been pulled from service, had or were having the issues resolved, or were waiting for parts on back order.
I'm grateful that he made that response to you to show that we are concerned and that, if this was some oversight, it won't happen again.
Lee County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Anita Iriarty emailed me that a number of their recalls had or were being remedied by LCSO Fleet, or were waiting on parts to be released. And the City of Cape Coral spokesperson Connie Barron told me that a number of their replacement parts had only recently become available, adding that, quote, the safety of our police officers is not being jeopardized by these open recalls. End quote.
No matter what you think is a big or a small recall affects the safety of that car, you need to take every single one of them seriously because they're done to help keep you safe.
Now, I checked in with all 3 law enforcement agencies again this week. FMPD tells me that all of the vehicles I brought to their attention have been taken care of. LCSO and CCPD have fixed several of their recalls, but are still waiting on some parts to become available. Now, if you want to check for any recalls on your own car, I have all the instructions for you on our website. That's NBC-2.com. For the NBC2 Investigators tonight, I'm Rachel Polansky.
8 different people.
I just wanted a pool for my young daughter and son.
Sold 8 different dreams.
And he basically started a little bit of the work and then after the hurricane never came back.
That they say turned into nightmares.
It's a modern day stick up, Right. They just don't have a gun.
So how much money have you lost throughout this ordeal?
$15,000. We were down $23,000.
These people claim that 3 different licensed Southwest Florida contractors took their money but didn't finish their projects.
We had liens that exceeded $100,000.
We lost around $40,000.
All 8 filed complaints through the state, the Attorney General's office, or local law enforcement.
It's a serious situation in Florida that something has to be done.
But none of the 3 business owners in question, Christopher Cheney of Southern Premier, Walter Rowley of Sand Dollar Pool and Spa, or Stephen Hunnell, a Marco Island builder, have been arrested, charged, or jailed. A check on their records reveals that Cheney's license is now listed as inactive, Rowley, who was licensed through another man, is now listed as relinquished, and Hunnell still has an active license, although Collier County Sheriff's Office tells NBC2 that they are investigating.
There's no convictions for them. There's no repercussion for their actions, and there really has to be. 2
of these 3 contractors ran their businesses out of Cape Coral, so we took our questions straight to KPD's Corporal Philip Mullen.
So do you think law enforcement is doing everything they can to hold these bad contractors accountable?
I do. Unfortunately, it is a complicated statute, but we can't deal in civil law. We only deal in criminal law.
He's right. Many contractor disputes are civil, but when the NBC2 investigators went to work reading through Florida law, we found Statute 713, also known as the Construction Lien Law. And one provision of that law, 713.345, says if a contractor misuses a construction payment, there are criminal penalties. Real estate attorney Kevin Drzezinski confirms it's a felony.
There is teeth in the law for the people, but the question is whether there is enforced is something that has to be answered by the state attorney or the sheriff's department, how they deal with that.
So we went back to our Southwest Florida law enforcement agencies, asking for all incident reports involving Statute 713 for the last 2 years, as well as any other incident report in which a person was arrested regarding contracting work. Fort Myers, Naples, and KPD had 0 reports. The Collier and Charlotte County Sheriff's Offices also had 0, and the Lee County Sheriff's Office had 2 arrests related to contracting fraud. One of those 2 cases has since been dropped by the state attorney's office.
And victims want to know, why aren't police arresting these guys?
Well, from a law enforcement perspective, it starts at the road, of course. Your patrol officer is going to come out and take that complaint. They have to determine whether there's probable cause for an arrest.
It just seems, though, with all these people saying the same thing and having the same stories, it looks like it fits the statute. Why does it take so long? Why doesn't it fit the statute?
It's a matter of, like I said, we send the warrant request to the state, and we package together the best case we can if we determine that, yes, we believe this rises to the level of a crime. but we have to send it to the state for a filing decision. At that point, we just have to wait to see what comes back from the state.
So we called and emailed our state attorney's office, requesting the total number of complaints or warrant requests involving Florida Statute 713 for the last 2 years. Spokesperson Samantha Sion told me, quote, "There were no public records under that statute. That statute was utilized one time and it is not a public record," end quote. She went on to tell me that the Economics Crimes Unit has had 72 convictions in the last year, none related to contractor fraud.
Do you think that's a problem?
Absolutely.
Definitely sounds like it's a problem.
What would you say to law enforcement? What would you say to the state attorney's office when it comes to contractor fraud?
It's theft.
It's theft,
They proved that they stole money. Arrest them. Put them through, do that a couple of times and people would stop doing it so much.
Right, make an example of a few, and then the contractors would think twice about taking your money and just pocketing it.
The NBC2 investigators began reporting on Cheney 1 year ago. Then, less than 2 weeks ago, we pushed the story forward, questioning why Cheney and other accused contractors are rarely arrested or charged. NBC2 investigator Rachel Polansky is live in Cape Coral. Rachel, what do we know about why Cheney was just arrested?
A CCPD spokesperson tells me that the agency sent a warrant request to the state attorney's office for Cheney's arrest back in February. Well, that warrant request was approved today.
What do you have to say to all the people you ripped off? Mr. Cheney. More than a dozen people have told me that builder Chris Cheney, former owner of Southern Premier, took their money but never finished their homes. Tonight, Cheney is being charged with fraud for obtaining property $50,000 or more.
It's been a long time coming.
Lisa Johnson is one of Cheney's former customers. She told me that she paid him $15,000. When he did not do the work, she filed a complaint through the state, the Attorney General's office, and Cape Coral Police. We told her about his arrest this afternoon.
I hope that he will be able to face all of the music and in some way have to repay either some of his victims or the state of Florida that has already paid out some claims on his behalf.
Chris Cheney will have his first appearance tomorrow morning, and I will be there. If he is found guilty of this charge, it is a first-degree felony.